No, why do you have to record me? No.
Episode 78. It is the Cine. We are back for yet another episode, man. It has been
Too long.
I don't know, two weeks maybe since y'all heard an episode. Longer than that since we recorded an episode.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we've been busy. There's FYC going on, lots of movies to watch. Holidays are happening. Excuse. We love you.
Things
We
are
love
happening,
you.
things are transpiring. But we are here to
We're
bless you.
perspiring.
We are
What?
perspiring. In the wintertime, which is weird. We're here to bless you with two more episodes left for the good year of 2022. This being the first of those two episodes, 78. How you been, sir?
How I am much better now. I am much better having spoken to you. You are delightful. You
I
always call
try to
me
be.
delightful and effervescent. It's really you. You are the one that lights this whole thing up. Thank you.
I don't think that's the case. I'm the one who keeps this thing nice and grounded while I let you do your thing, sir.
Yeah,
I'm the vessel through which Douglas Davidson can get it all out.
yeah, you are. Wait, what?
We're here to talk some movies. It's like you just said. It's been a while since we did a little bit of movie talking. We have both seen swaths of films, like you mentioned. It is awards season, so
I'm
it's
still so
been.
behind. It's disgusting.
Well, what do we always say when it comes to the movies at the end of the year?
Can't see everything.
You can't see everything.
Can't see everything.
We just act like we do, and
We try.
we try.
I never pretend I've seen something. But I will never say I haven't unless asked.
There you go.
Wow.
There you go. So, of the things you've seen recently, sir, what would you like to share with the class?
There are 4 films that I'm going to be quick with all of them.
Mm.
3 are easily available right now, and that's part of the reason why they're going to be super quick. All of these I've watched either for home review or for FYC for consideration. The first one, believe it or not, I didn't think I'd enjoy whatsoever, but it had been a shitty day. Crystal, I needed to watch something that was for FYC, and Crystal was available. We watched Spirited, which is the Apple TV Plus movie, directed by Sean Anders, starring Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds and Octavia Spencer. It's got a bunch of other actors in it that are absolutely fantastic. I didn't think I'd like this movie at all, and the next day we bought the CD. It's on its way from the Spirited official store. It is, for those of you that are unaware, in brief, Will Ferrell plays the Ghost of Christmas Present, and every year he and a group of other spirits pick somebody to redeem. And for one reason or another, Will Ferrell picks Ryan Reynolds' character because Ryan Reynolds' character is considered unredeemable. And for personal reasons, Will Ferrell goes, no, we need to try and redeem him. He can be redeemed. And so that's who they pick. And yes, it's a take on A Christmas Carol, but ends up going in some directions and playing with things in a way that makes it feel fresh and innovative. It zigged a little where I expected it to zag. And for me, that was a lot of fun. And I'm still new to the whole Christmas thing, being part of the Hebrew tribe community. So I've watched Christmas movies, but I didn't grow up with these traditions or these things. So I'm trying to find ways to join them, as it were, with Crystal and her traditions.
Now you're not missing anything.
Yeah, she's more or less said that. But we do try and watch Scrooged, and her family did Die Hard and Christmas Vacation. So occasionally we'll do those.
And anything else Christmassy? Any of the movies that might have started on Christmas Day? Maybe a year passes, it ends on Christmas Day.
You talking about A Christmas Story? Because I mean, I've seen A Christmas Story that played for 24 hours on TBS every fucking year, so of course I've seen that.
No,
all right. I'm not picking up what you're laying down.
Oh, maybe there's a certain color attached with this movie. Maybe there's knights in there.
Do 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 do.
What's your second movie?
I've got no fuck. No, tell me, what the fuck are you talking about?
The Green Knight.
Oh, for you, absolutely perfect. I want to revisit it. Crystal's not seen it, and we haven't had time to watch anything longer than maybe 30 minutes in one sitting. it was a miracle, literally, that no child woke up while we were watching Spirited. But Green Knight actually would be excellent just for the type of redemptive story that it is. It would actually fit in very well with Spirited.
You don't
But
say.
would recommend that. I would also recommend a film that is currently streaming on Hulu now. I believe it premiered at Sundance. Good Luck to You, Leo Grand, directed by Sophie Hyde. This is a phenomenal two-hander between Emma Thompson and Daryl McCormick. The basic premise is that Thompson plays a woman who is not experienced sexually. She is a widow, and she hires Daryl McCormick's character, Leo, to fulfill some of those things. And it's
Filled
awkward and
something,
it's
all right.
uncomfortable, but it is a wonderful dramedy that explores sexuality in a positive way, bodies in a positive way, attraction, and different things that you think would be complex, but can is broken down in a really interesting way. Highly recommend that. Emma Thompson is, as usual, amazing, but she is particularly vulnerable in this in a way that I don't think I've seen before. So I'd highly recommend that. Again, it's streaming on Hulu. One that's in theaters, I believe, right now is called Women Talking, directed by Sarah Polley. It has won numerous awards from various critics groups. I believe SEFCA gave it adapted screenplay, if I
Mm-hmm.
remember correctly. This film is about a group of women that are part of an isolated community that gather together to decide what they are going to do with new evidence about a terrible incident that has happened to many women in the community.
Mm-hmm.
It is literally what the title says. This is adapted from a novel, but it is literally a group of women talking. It is so tense and so well shot and so well acted, you will feel like you can't move. Every word that someone says, every response to that word carries so much weight. It is positively remarkable and devastating. And trigger warning for anyone that has experienced abuse of any kind. What's while that is a subject matter, unlike other films with deal with violence against women, we see the aftermath. We never see the act itself. We never see it happening. We just know that it happened. And the way that it's handled, I think, particularly through Sarah Polly's lens, it's it's respectful, it's kind, and it's thoughtful. So if you get the opportunity to see women talking, it is not a happy watch, but it is a phenomenal one. And last but not least, a film that is on home video as of December 13th, Anita Roca de Silveira's Medusa. It's about a group of women in Brazil who they're young girls, they are friends, and they spend their days in a church group singing songs about the glory of the Lord. And then at night, they don white masks and beat up women that are walking alone, calling them sluts and trying to get them to convert to Catholicism, like you do. This film is a neo noir. It's a thriller. It's a comedy. It's a drama. It is more or less an exploration of the Medusa myth, and where everyone thinks of Medusa as a monster that turned people to stone, that Perseus the hero slayed her, and she was a monster to be destroyed. We have tendency to forget that Medusa, before she had that ability, was cursed by Athena because Medusa had the she was just so rude to allow herself to be sexually assaulted by Poseidon and didn't do anything about it. So Medusa is basically a someone who, through no fault of their own, was punished for someone else's transgressions. And this film beautifully, layer upon layer, explores that. Again, it's not a happy watch necessarily, but it is a fantastic one. Would recommend.
Let's not forget, Medusa is also the thing that stopped the Kraken in Clash of the Titans. Please don't take away all of Medusa's accomplishments in this world.
Yeah, I'm just saying that she had to lose her head for that.
Well, sacrifices.
Jesus.
Greater good, all that. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, women talking. I nominated for the Ken Hankey Spirit of the South Award.
Totally fair.
Yeah, I was like, this gives me a southern fucking feel for this movie, along with other movies, because I don't take that category seriously at all. I saw a couple of movies as well. Speaking of which, before we get into that, yeah, what did end up winning the runner up in that category? Incredibly disturbing to
Yeah.
me for the Spirit of the South. Till being that movie, I got some thoughts about that. The movie that I
I
saw,
mean,
the
it's not.
movies.
I would love to hear your thoughts on it because, quite frankly, in a weird way, it is it is accurate because we are still dealing with those issues. It is fucked up that we are still dealing with those issues.
It is horribly right and horribly wrong at the same time. I lean more towards horribly wrong than I do horribly right. I'm pretty sure there are other movies that evoke the spirit of the South other than a story about a black man getting beaten and then lynched to death. I'm pretty sure they could have done something better than that. Well, they did. It was Elvis, which is also shit for that category. But that's neither here nor there.
I want to be clear. I'm laughing at your reaction, not the circumstance.
Yeah, like I said, I don't take that category seriously at all because it's ridiculous. Just the phrase "spirit of the South" has no positive connotation to me.
That's fair.
I watched three movies. I
Only
watched
three. He lied about the rest.
only that. Well, I do that plenty.
He watched them just over and over. Sorry.
Emergency is the first one I watched. You've seen this, right, Douglas?
No, but I want to.
Okay, yeah, directed by Carrie Williams. It's about
It's on Amazon, right?
I don't know. I watched a screener for it. I think it is an
Okay.
Amazon joint though. Amazon Studios.
Mhm.
Um, it's a I don't know if you consider adapted, but it's expanded from the short that this director did. Carrie Williams about two college seniors who are or two undergrads, I guess, who are getting ready to go ahead and move up in the world. They are preparing themselves for a legendary night of partying between the two of them.
Like
Two
you do.
young, like you do, as was done many times when I was there on campus. Two young black men. These are. They get back to their house in order to prep for this legendary party, and they find a passed out, semi-conscious, mostly comatose white girl. And the big question becomes, what do we do? This is a dramedy. This is incredibly hilarious and also incredibly impactful at the same time. And there are, of course, differing points of view. That's how you push narrative forward. There is the we don't want to call the cops because that brings doom upon us versus we got to call the cops because this woman needs help. And it's an ideological battle of which one do you do? Do you help the person that's passed out, or do you potentially help yourself in this situation? And every move they make in order to try to rectify a situation just kind of mires them further and further in their bad decision making, which has its own comical consequences at the same time. The two leads of this, Donald Watkins and R.J. Seiler, as well as their third roommate who eventually joins in on the shenanigans, Sebastian Chacon, all incredibly adept at this. It's like I said, it's equal parts hilarious. They certain actors handle the comedy just as well as they handle the drama and vice versa. I think the main lead is the weakest part of this movie, actually. Um, but the quote unquote comedic relief of this is just electric all throughout this movie. Every time he's on screen, it's nonsense. He's lighting it up. And then at the end, it all dovetails into it turns real serious real quick fast. At the very end, it all comedy is stripped away. And that last, I would say, 30-40 minutes is all emotions of all various kinds, panic, fear, catharsis throughout all of this. It is a wonderful watch. And at only, how long was this joint, man? This is only 105 minutes. It is an amazing watch. Yeah, I love this movie, man. I love the fuck out of it. Emergency, directed by Carrie Williams.
I've got a literally a list of movies that I need to see before NCFCA votes. I'm gonna go add it to the list to make sure I don't forget.
You
Keep
make
talking.
sure you add that to the list. I saw another movie, a little joint that some of you listeners might have heard of. It's called Avatar: The Way of the Water, the sequel to Big Jim Cameron's movie from 13 years ago, which is erased from all our consciousness because it was 13 years ago. But
Not mine. I just watched it.
we are back, man. We're back on the road to Pandora. He took the first movie to explore the skies. This movie, we are exploring Pandora's oceans. Man still got it. That old bastard still got it, man. The man knows how to just tell a big story. I think the first Avatar is the better movie. I think this one is more grandeur in scope and scale. This movie is part Avatar, part Abyss, part Titanic. Like he just pulled out all the old Cameron stops all throughout this joint, and what he created by just basically all this is the Cameron's greatest hits movie, and then still finds a way to tie it into the whole Pandora. You get a whole lot of returning characters, a whole lot of new characters. For those who aren't quite familiar with what's going on, what we saw at the end of the first movie was just a small piece of victory that the Na'vi get to feel returning back the Colonel and these humans. And the humans have come back and in greater numbers. And they said, fuck this unobtainium. We're taking all the resources from this planet. And so with that, it brings its own set of complications. Yes, sir.
Just out of curiosity, I think I read somewhere, and I, until this moment, hadn't thought to look it up. Is Stephen Lang in the new movie?
You goddamn right, Stephen Lang's in this
How
movie.
the fuck is he in the new movie?
And
Does he also have a twin?
It is explained how he is in this movie. It's somewhere in the first 15, 20 minutes. They explain what's going on with him. And rewatching Avatar,
they RoboCop 2'd him, didn't they? They just took his brain and put him into a Ed T09.
Yep.
Here, go murder people.
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
I was fucking joking. Are you kidding?
He's Stephen Lang and Colonel Quaritch in a Na'vi body, just out there. So now not only does he have his marine ruthlessness, but he also has that ruthlessness plus the overall size, speed, and strength of Na'vi, which makes him even more deadly than he was in the first movie. And he's just as bitter and venomous as he was in the first one. Stephen Lang is what holds the first and this movie together because he obviously delights in being this big, badder than life villain because he's so good at being a big, bad villain. I didn't realize how much I loved his performance in the first one until I rewatched it before I saw this one. And he's just chewing scenery left and right. And once again, here, this movie is the Jake Sully revenge tour. That's what a huge part of this movie is. Sully, for his own part, has a family now, and it's all about how do you protect your family in the midst of doing what's right. Is what's at the heart of this movie, and that's why we move from the skies to the oceans to protect its family and integrating with a whole different clan of people, and seeing a whole new world. It is a little long in the tooth. It feels.
You say that without singing it? How could you say that without singing it? How dare you, sir?
Without singing what?
A whole new.
Don't you dare close your eyes. It feels its length, but it's weird. The first act is clunky. Clunky is all get up of the exposition and the setup. The second act, dare I say, is just straight vibes. It's just them hanging out in the ocean and Cameron just being like, look at what this technology has given us over the last decade and some change. Fair, because he flexes. And the third one is like, you want a big action set piece, I'm going to give you a big fucking action set piece. So, it's three distinct stages that come together for a decent movie. The last joint, and the purpose of this topic, a movie that I'm sure we were here to discuss, Glass Onion, which we saw together, a Knives Out mystery directed by The Last Jedi's director, Rian Johnson. I don't know what's so funny about that, sir. It's a factual statement.
It's true.
It is true. It is true. Detective Benoit Blanc is back with the cast, back with the whole new gang of people to solve yet another mystery, and back with another all-star studded cast of who's who of new Hollywood, a little bit of older Hollywood in there as well. It's just good to see him back. Netflix gave him a whole lot more money than he had for Knives Out, and it definitely shows greater production value, all sorts of stuff going on in there. Looks prettier in some ways than others. Story, I am not a huge fan of. I know I am on Minority Island for that thought.
Hey,
you
coming out of
and
your mouth, you can say that. I am not going to say that about you.
you're your own minority, Douglas.
I mean, to be
Um,
fair, that's true. Can
yes.
I be on Minority Island with you?
Come on, buddy, we got room. But yeah, I realize that my opinion is not most opinion.
And
Most
that's
people
okay.
seem to really fucking dig this movie. I will rewatch it when it hits Netflix to try to understand why. But at the first watch, I'm not getting it. Um, Interesting story, I guess. There's something in particular that really ruined the movie for me.
Okay.
We haven't talked about it at all, have we? Really, all that
I
much?
don't think we have, because it had that limited
Yeah,
release,
that limited theatrical release, but
and it hasn't gone wide. I think we've refrained from saying anything other than, in fact, our last show, we were seeing it the next night. So we
right,
hadn't even seen it yet.
right.
But I would feel more comfortable waiting to our next show if we wanted to discuss it,
Our next show's
because
the
then
top
people would
10,
have
and
enough.
usually we just get into our top 10s for the next show, though.
That's true. That's true.
I feel like this might be the time.
It's fucking
Well,
great. It's fucking great. Don't listen to him. I'm
what is it that you
I
love
don't
so much?
normally hold on. I don't normally flex like this, but sometimes when an opportunity shows up, you take the goddamn opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had the opportunity to watch Glass Onion whenever I wanted. So I took it. I've watched it twice more now.
Mm-hmm.
It's still goddamn hilarious. I have, um because you and I are fortunate enough that when Netflix sends out sometimes their for consideration boxes, sometimes they'll just send a disc, other times for a larger property that they really want to push, they may send like a script, a score, whatever else.
Mm.
So I actually pulled the script off my shelf and was watching a scene and looking at stuff to be like, wait, did I hear this right? How is it in the script? Because there's something that happens in the movie that I didn't catch the first time, but the second time I was like, holy shit. Because the movie is with Glass Onion, it's not just a reference to the Beatles song, it's actually a whole idea. It's not just a physical thing that's in the movie either. It is a whole idea that everything happens out in the open. It's up to you to be able to peel the layers and actually see.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that something does happen right out in front of us, and you have to listen to notice it. Crystal heard it the first time. You know what? As I told her to her face, you know what? Fuck you. She's smart. She's observant. I was just having a good time the first time through it, so I didn't hear it. But the second time, I was like, "Holy shit!" And that's what I dig about this movie is that there's stuff happening in front of you, and it's this attention to detail that for me makes it work. For example, and this I don't think is a spoiler. The movie happens during COVID. It
Mm-hmm.
starts, I think, May of 2020, and so there's people in masks and whatever else. When everybody comes together for the first time in the movie that we see, what's her name? Kate Hudson's Birdie J. She's a social influencer, fashionista,
Influencer.
whatever. Her mask is one of those lace bullshit masks,
Yep.
and it's that kind of attention to detail that tells you everything you need to know about Birdie J before she opens up her mouth. And she's already opened up her mouth, so we already have some sense. But this moment right there,
It
I
tells you
was
what you
like,
need to know about the character. Yep.
oh, it's so good. And the conversations they have are so vapid and dumb
Mm-hmm.
that it tells you exactly who these people are. It reminded me in a different way, of the scene in Knives Out original when everyone's sitting in the sitting room eating cake and having the conversation about then President Trump, and the husband played by, I can't think of his name all of a sudden.
Don Johnson.
Uh, what's that?
Don Johnson.
Don Johnson, thank you. He's gesturing, but he's doing it in a way to hand Marta, without looking at her, his plate.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that kind of stuff. There's things like that here in this movie, and you start to notice it. It's just these little behaviors, these little things, and it's, oh my god, they're
See, I
so
find that
dumb.
interesting because that's the scene that I think about in Knives Out. It's that scene that lets me know, oh, I cannot stand these people and I
Mm-hmm.
root for their downfall.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in Glass Onion, we get those interactions and I'm like, I just don't care about any of you and I don't care about what happens to any of you.
That's fair.
Um, Ah, there was something I had. Sorry, I broke your train of thought there.
No, 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 no. You're totally fine. But speaking to that, one thing I noticed, particularly with additional watches, is the fact that something I remember talking about with you and others after the movie, particularly, I forget who else didn't quite enjoy it at that screening, is the
No,
fact that
Leslie.
Leslie,
Yeah.
for sure, I didn't have any expectations except to try to enjoy myself. The
Mm,
way that the two of you articulated it is that you went into it expecting Knives Out, except this is Glass Onion. It's a it's a separate, brand new, whole new story. So with that mindset, I felt like I wasn't comparing it to Knives Out. I was just watching a new Benoit Blanc story. And are there moments in Glass Onion that don't hold up, that aren't as entertaining as Knives Out? Yes, I would agree with you totally and completely. But in my head, it's not that I was never rooting for the downfall of anybody in Glass Onion. It's that they weren't as much of an just total classist elitist bastards. There was at least some redeeming value in a few of them.
mm,
In a few of them. Um, but they're just a different group of characters. Not to
yeah.
say that, I mean, if you don't like it, that's I'm not going to try and convince you otherwise. I had a fucking ball. I can't wait till it's just available at my fingertips all the time.
Yeah, I think for me, expectations is what killed it because I went in and I was like, I saw the first trailer and I was like, oh, there's your killer right there. And I never wavered from that. And I just sat there and watched the whole movie. And then the killer's revealed, and I was like, well, that's 2 hours I could have gotten back.
Aw,
Yeah. So that I'm just like, attempt at misdirection? No, not going to fool me. Oh, well,
that's hey, that's how I
being
felt with
right is
Blade Runner
shitty.
2049. I totally get that because it's one of
I
those.
I did the same thing. I was like, what are they gonna start having kids? And then all of a sudden I was like, oh I was like, oh shit, that's kind of the point of this movie.
Yep, they went and fucking had
They
kids.
wouldn't fucking have kids. I was like, oh well, okay.
No,
But
but I get that when the whole thing is supposed to be a when it's a murder mystery in whatever form it takes, the idea is that it's supposed to be playing with you. And can you figure this out? Why is Elvis on your TV behind you?
I saw that and I was like, wait a minute. All right,
Holy shit, we found him.
Elvis in the Saints game. All right.
It's either that or Austin Butler. He's really
He's
working on that FYC
really
kid.
campaigning for it. All right. But yeah, it'll be available shortly
23rd,
after
23rd,
23rd. Yeah, shortly after
23rd.
this episode goes up, man. So you can check out Glass Onion if you have Netflix for y'all self. That'll
I,
be an
I,
interesting
I for
discussion
sure
thread.
recommend it.
There you go. I also recommend it. Maybe you'll like it more than I did.
Maybe you'll like it less. And either way, it's fine.
I don't think that's
Mm,
possible.
mm.
I don't think that's possible. All right then, yeah. Let's severe disappointment for me. 2.5 stars is what I gave that movie.
Four and a half.
Let's 4.5. Let's get into speaking of Glass Onion, man, murder mysteries. We
Talking murder
all a
mysteries.
lot of people love a good murder, a good whodunit, as they are called, man. Dead body on some cast, someone trying to figure it out. One of your possibilities of a good whodunit, sometimes just a detective that's on a case. And that's what
Yep.
we're here to talk about today is some of our favorite murder mysteries are whodunits. Um, the gumshoes out there getting it all figured out, sir. I'm sure you have a litany of examples, so you go ahead and do that.
It's not a litany. It's brief. And interestingly, in the research to come up with a few of these, I was reminded of some movies that I enjoy that I haven't watched in ages,
Mm.
like Bad Time at the El Royale. What a good fucking movie that was. Or The Nice Guys, Memento, Rear Window, The Third Man, The Maltese Falcon, A Simple Favor, which I still need to see. I bought that and I still
Mm-hmm.
need to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
The Hateful Eight, Happy Death Day,
Oh,
technically a whodunit. It is sitting over there from Netflix. I still haven't watched it. So that's just what's really great with a murder mystery is it doesn't always have to be a specific type. It doesn't have to be Murder on the Orient Express or See How They Run. It can also be something like A Happy Death Day where, holy shit, someone's trying to murder me. Oh, wait, they keep succeeding. Fuck, why am I doing this again?
mm.
So you just never know what the genre is going to be. So, mwahaha.
There you go. There you go. What's your first one, sir?
My first one, uh, one, two, 1 + 2 + 1. Hmm. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Flynn's Clue.
Yes,
Two
there we
plus one
go.
plus one plus two.
Is that towards the end?
Yeah, when they're counting the shots.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Is that right about the time when Tim Curry's running around like an idiot all throughout the house? Okay, yeah. I'm on board with you now.
That movie was probably, and keep in mind, I'm a PBS kid, so I've seen like Masterpiece Theater, and they had this. I have this vague recollection of these like spooky cartoons that would tell weird ass stories
Hmm.
that would sometimes play. But I'm pretty sure Clue was my first like real murder mystery that I ever recognized as, oh, this is what this is.
Yeah.
And I thought it was the most ridiculous movie, and it is the most ridiculous movie, and
Yes.
it is so great.
It's excellent.
And most of that is the cast. The cast is just so in this ridiculousness. I totally love that it has multiple endings, and at a time when nowadays you have mid-credit sequences, you have stingers, you have all sorts of other crap. To have a movie that would play multiple endings in different theaters, that's goddamn genius.
Yep.
But I'm grateful that we can just watch it and then go, or it could have happened like this, and then
Yep.
see how it does. But for those of you that are unfamiliar, it's a cinematic adaptation of the board game Clue. Like, that's literally what it fucking is, and it shouldn't work. It shouldn't work. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, it bombed when it released,
Wouldn't be
but
surprised.
it went to home video and took off from there. There's no accounting for taste, ladies and gentlemen, because Clue is my first choice. It was my first thought, and it's a great, fun goddamn movie. In fact, it was my first thought when I watched See How They Run, because Adrian Brody played the body that gets killed, and all I could think of is, oh, he's Mr. Body.
Mr. Body. Yeah, I love the shit out of that movie. It was also the first thing I thought, and I was like, Doug will have it on his list. That'll free up a spot for my list.
There you go.
Yeah, I love the fuck out of Clue. I love all those performances. It is my favorite Tim Curry. Um, yeah, and that's all there is to say. Yeah. I feel like you're Tim Curry. You're one of three. You're either a Clue guy, or you still can rank one above the other. You're a Clue guy. You're an It guy. Or you're a Rocky Horror guy. And that just lets you know that Tim Curry's been out there killing it for quite some time now.
He is so good in so many different roles. But yeah, my first thought with Tim Curry is probably Rocky, but it would be tied with Clue.
Yeah,
It would be tied with Clue.
yeah. That he has my favorite shot of that movie is where he's in that bathroom. It's all dark. And he's trying to get out. He's looking for the lights, and he hits the shower head and just starts showering on it for no reason whatsoever. That's my favorite. It will always crack me up. That and the singing telegram getting shot. Yeah. My first joint. Now that we got Clue out of the way, in the same vein of a murder mystery with the element of comedy to it. Fletch.
Ooh, good call.
Yes, not a fan of Chevy Chase, a huge fan of Fletch. I love shit out of this movie, directed by Michael Ritchie. As far as I'm concerned, he never did another thing before or since. Fletch is his world to me. Chevy Chase, Joe Don Baker, Dana Wheeler, Nicholson, man. It's Tim Matheson as well, and Emmett Walsh. It's a story of a journalist, works for I think the L.A. Times or some Los Angeles newspaper,
Mm-hmm.
who is tasked to investigate something. He's investigating the drugs on the beach shore and how they're coming in, and he's been asked by a rich man to murder him for a huge sum of money.
Like you
And
do.
as you do, Fletch being a investigative journalist, obviously the alarm bells go off. He starts digging into why this person wants to pay him a vast sum of money to murder him, and then the pieces fall into place. It's almost like a reverse who done it, because no one gets killed in the beginning. The killing comes at the very end of the movie, really. So it kind of plays with that trope a little bit there. It's just a vehicle to let Chevy Chase do his thing. All the ridiculous names, all the improv, all the costumes, all the gags, all the one-liners, like it's all Chevy's wheelhouse. And he leveraged every bit of that to its maximum potential. There's so many funny lines all throughout Fletch. That's absolutely ridiculous. Um, I've tried to charge things to the Underhills many a times in my life, even though they are a fictional family. So much good stuff going on. Fletch, my first murder mystery.
Yeah, the sequel,
We don't
I
talk about.
remember it not so good, and that one is not based on any
The
of the books
books, yeah.
where the first Fletch was. And Chase, I felt, worked really well with with the original. I can't think of the writer's name all of a sudden, but
J.D. Salinger, I do believe, was the writer of
no,
Fletch.
no, you can
No,
hit the road with that
oh,
nonsense.
okay, maybe it's D.B. Cooper. I'm thinking of that wrote that.
Now you just Gregory McDonald.
J.F.
Gregory
Kennedy.
McDonald.
Oh,
Ah, I
okay.
remembered it on my own.
He works well within the that universe for Fletch, but as I've been made aware, that's not the Fletch character on paper, which, from what I've heard, is more of what John Hamm is doing in Confess Fletch.
Which I was going to ask. I was literally trying to figure out if it was streaming. It's streaming on Showtime right now.
Yes, yes, it is. It
So
is
if you've
on
got the
my list of
Showtime app, you
things to
can go
check
check
out.
out Confess Fletch. It is so fucking good. Like you're just looking for just a straight up. We've talked about it before. Mid budget comedy.
Mm-hmm.
That there's your movie right there. You're just looking for something to have some fun with.
I
There's your
was
movie.
reticent to the idea because I was team Jason Lee for so long. For so many
Yes,
years, I was team
yes.
Jason Lee for Fletch. And that Fletch would have reflected more, I think, of the Chevy Chase bitingly sarcastic, a bit silly Fletch. But I've opened my horizons and I'm finally ready to accept a John Hamm Fletch. So I'll sit down
Accept
with him
him
at
into
some
your
point.
life. He will not treat you wrong.
He won't treat me wrong. Excellent. What is your second pick?
My second pick, when I will admit, when we first talked about murder mysteries, I was thinking, your Clue, your The Nice Guys, see how they run, Confess Fletch, those sort of straight things. But as I was doing research on it and realizing that with the murder mystery, it's a body drops and people spend the rest of the movie trying to figure out who did it. Okay.
Or they spend the rest of the movie trying to make sure they are not the second body who drops.
Exactly. So I started thinking about what other types of movies, and of course, Happy Death Day showed up in my listing, and because of that, I jumped to probably my favorite straight horror film, directed by Wes Craven, 96. The reason why I started exploring horror films to begin with, Scream. This is a movie. It starts well before the movie proper begins with a murder.
Mm-hmm.
But our movie starts with the death of a boy and the death of a girl. And it just keeps rolling from there. And the rest of the movie is trying to figure out who is the person that's killed these people and why are they trying to do it. And in this case, it is a slasher, so it follows those rules. However, it is the whole time a mystery of who's doing this. And that's more or less what follows the rest of the Scream films, in addition to their sort of meta narrative that they always play with. Speaking of what should have forgotten, what is it? Stab 7, Stab 8 was
Mm-hmm.
directed by Ryan Johnson. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to also make sure to mention that in his catalog of films when we talk about the man. He is prolific. He doesn't stick in just one genre.
He sure doesn't. He sure doesn't.
But Scream, and I ended up watching it for its 4K release. I think that was in within this calendar year. It holds up. It is still such a strong script from Kevin Williamson. Wes Craven is so tight and meticulous with his ideas and his direction. This cast is phenomenal. The fact that none of them knew what they were doing, in the sense of they had no idea it was going to be this big film,
Mm-hmm.
is remarkable because it was huge. And it still is. It is still a very tight, very narrow, very terrifying film.
It
And
is.
as far as whodunit is concerned, you think and you've got some ideas, and it leans in some directions, but it's still chilling when you find out.
I prefer my whodunits most of the time be I need to see I prefer to see
Mm-hmm.
the murder happen
Okay.
within the first 15 or 20 minutes. And then we spend the rest of the time
So you want a
getting it all.
traditional murder mystery?
Yeah, I prefer that. Or start out with the discovery of a dead body, which is kind of what Knives Out does, which is kind of like what my second movie does.
Nice segue.
Brick.
Oh,
Brick's a damn good movie, also done by Ryan Johnson. Another reason I'm not a huge fan of Glass Onion is we don't get a body for a while that we know of. It kind of takes a lot to get there, and I'm like, let's get some people killed already. But yeah, we start out with
oh, it's the bloodlust. You couldn't get the
Yes,
bloodlust sated.
yes, the bloodlust. This starts out with Joseph Gordon-Levitt looking at the dead body. I do believe that is your second shot you see in the movie. The first shot you see is the hand in the water, and then the second shot you see him standing over the dead or sitting hunched over the dead body, looking at it, and that imagery is enough to be like, yo, what is going on here? This teenager found another teenager dead in a culvert. That's a ditch for the most part, a tiny little stream. And then you're on from there. And how he chooses to use those old noirish 1950s style trappings with the dialogue and all that kind of good stuff. Um, it it keeps it fresh in a way you don't expect it to be kept fresh. I think is the best way of putting it. It puts it had the possibility of going hammy, and sometimes it kind of does. The dialogue there a little bit cheesy, but still, enough of it lands solid that you're like, all right, you're gimmicky, but I appreciate the gimmick that you're doing, and I buy into the gimmick. And then the mystery itself, and one of the good things about these types of noirs or murder mysteries is just pulling that one thread that exposes a much larger thing that's going on, which is what this movie does with the beginning of this dead body. Of, he's constantly trying to figure out who murdered his ex while uncovering a whole lot of other shit going on in the town.
I have thoughts on this, but this was my
Dopeness.
challenge,
We'll
so
talk
I'm
about it
gonna
later, sir. We'll talk about it later. What is your third and final?
I think you will forgive me
Uh,
from Scream. From
mm,
Scream. With my third one. And I tried to choose films that meant something to me in some way, shape, or form. And so when we talk about whodunits, there is one that stands above all the rest in terms of it's grand,
mm,
it's dark,
mm.
it deals with real world issues, and has one of the dirtiest games of patty cake you will ever watch in any movie. It's Robert Zemeckis's Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I saw this movie so many times in theaters. This was in 1988 when this film was introduced. Movies, believe it or not, dear listeners, might stay in a theater for close to a year.
Mm-hmm.
This was a
Mm-hmm.
film that if I remember correctly, my brothers would go to a camp, or when I was around that age, I was probably about 7. That was in, I think, West Virginia. We were living in Virginia. So my mom would take me with them to drop them off, and we'd spend the night and we'd go see a movie. And we saw Who Framed Roger Rabbit. When we went to pick them up, we stopped the night before so we could pick them up in the morning. We went to see Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I can't begin to tell you the number of times I saw it in the theater. That movie it rules, and I can't wait to be able to show it to my children. I'm just worried that Judge Doom is going to scare the shit out of Connor, and then I'll never be able to watch it again. So I
Good.
have to wait. Have to
Good.
wait
Should be a
because
little bit scared.
you should be. You see the dip nowadays. Like, you'll see cosplayers doing shit, and they'll have the dip, or they'll have the shoe
The
that's been
shoe.
dipped, and
Yeah.
you die a little inside. Like the horror at what so beautifully captured the ridiculousness of Toontown
Mm-hmm.
with the trappings of a proper noir, which I have to give credit to Ryan Johnson for. Sort of does the same thing with Brick. Obviously not Looney Tunes, but it is a hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
And Who Framed Roger Rabbit to this day still holds up as a standard noir with a twist, but it's so fresh and so unique and cast so perfectly. Bob Hoskins,
Mm-hmm.
he can play the drunkard detective and the show-stopping tune at the end. I mean, he's not a tune, but
Yeah.
he sings and dances. The movie is just so remarkable, and to a level that sadly we haven't gotten in some time.
I was always more of a Cool World guy.
I rewatched that recently, and I remember liking it the first time. And when I watched it this time, I went, "Why did I like this? It doesn't make
No,
sense
no, it doesn't. It doesn't at all.
at
It doesn't
all."
at all. Yeah.
But
Should have to
but
Gabriel
the
Byrne.
but the production design is incredible. I loved how they made it so that, yes, in one scene it's very clear that this is animated with real people involved, but when they had to make the real person do something, you could see these sort of 2D flat sets. It was
Mm-hmm.
creative. They went all in with it. So I at least appreciated that very much. But Cool World is now okay, I've seen it twice. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm about to take that joint out this weekend. Mine is what I considered to be the greatest murder mystery of all time, possibly. Uh,
I already said Clue. I don't know what you.
Song come out back in the 50s, directed by the master of suspense himself, The Rear Window. I absolutely adore this movie. It is my favorite Hitchcock, although I have Notorious sitting over here, which I have not watched. So that is on the list. Far superior. Anything Rebecca is shit. North by Northwest is dope. But I love me some Rear Window, mostly because of James Stewart. James Stewart carries this entire movie on his shoulders. He is in almost every frame of this movie. His relationship with Grace Kelly is some of my favorite chemistry. This somewhat reluctant man in a relationship with the most beautiful woman on film. He's just like, well, it's hilarious. Their banter back and forth, and then him trying to convince them that I think the guy across the apartment complex there might have murdered his wife, and then slowly a larger and larger cast of people, him bringing on board like his what's the word, maid, for lack of a better words, maid eventually gets in on it, and then Grace Kelly's character gets in on it, and it's strange enough how such absurd claim as I think my neighbor killed his wife brings their relationship together by the end, and they're closer by the end of the movie. It's so much character work happening, so much suspense happening. I think your boy Perry Mason is the bad guy in this joint. Um, Raymond Burr, yeah, is the bad guy in this joint. It is an exceptionally well done movie, and with one of maybe my second favorite opening tracking shot of all time. Tells you everything you need to know about this guy from the contents of his apartment as the camera pulls up to his broken leg. And you see him laid out there in the wheelchair, because you saw just before that he had photos of a flaming car closer and closer with each photo that the camera pans, and then allows you to put two and two together that he sacrificed himself to get the good picture. It's so good, man. I love this movie.
Right on, right on. I haven't seen
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, no, man. Challenge. Throwing the challenge flag at some point. I will
Okay, I was
I
about to
will
say we don't have any more challenges this year. So good luck.
not for this year, but I will definitely be writing that down for sometime in the 23s. It is a damn great movie. Yeah, that's it. That's it for our three murder mysteries. We got some challenges to get to before we get on the bat here. Let's get this wrapped up, good sir.
Well, since you already brought up Brick, I feel like I should just jump in.
Jump in.
Now, first of all, before I add to what Daryl said, anyone that has seen Brick and enjoys it, or you know about it and you've heard good things and are the type that just like to buy things without watching, there is a sale going on with Kino Lorber. I'm pretty sure even now at the time of this, the Blu-ray is on sale. I want to say
My
it's about
Blu-ray
10 bucks.
is Kino.
Yeah. And I bought the Blu-ray when I lived in Maryland with the intent to watch it because I heard good things. I left Maryland in '09 September. Hadn't watched it. Moved into a townhouse. Still didn't watch it. Moved into this house. Didn't watch it until Daryl went, "You idiot, watch the fucking movie." So I did, and the DVD is great. I'm not entirely sure I need to upgrade to a Blu-ray, but would recommend, if you haven't seen it, if you like Ryan Johnson, or if you feel like your DVD needs an upgrade, it's on sale. Go snag it. Kino Lorber does some great home releases.
Mhm.
So I would at least recommend that. Now, for the rest of it, just to add on, this has a phenomenal cast that if you are not familiar, if you haven't noticed this from Ryan Johnson's other work, Joseph Gordon-Levitt always shows up, and Noah Segan always shows up.
I hate that it's voice work from JGL mostly now. Like I need to see him back in front of the camera for a Ryan Johnson joint.
You don't have to, because I think the way that we get them is personally is perfect the way it is.
Okay.
And I'm not going to say how Joseph Gordon-Levitt is in Glass Onion. You can find that out for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. For those of you that are going, but wait, in Knives Out, he's not in it. at the beginning of the movie, when Marta is talking to comes into her home, and her mom and her sister are there, and the sister's listening to a podcast. Listen closely. She's listening to a true crime podcast, and a voice of a cop is Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yep. Yep.
Whereas Noah Segan is very obviously one of the detectives.
Mm-hmm.
He is present in Glass Onion, and I will again not ruin that for you. So there's a lot of familiar faces, and I haven't seen the Brothers Bloom or
Mm-hmm.
the Brother Bloom. I'm planning
Brothers.
to. That's the only one I haven't seen now, so I'm gonna throw it on my Netflix queue and make sure I track that down. But so there's some familiar faces in there, but Joseph Gordon-Levitt is our lead. Noah Segan, Luke Haas. I'm going to mispronounce her name, Nora Zehetner, who is
Mm.
fantastic. I've seen her pop up in other stuff, and I always go, "Oh, it's her," but I don't recall her name.
Yeah.
And then Emily DeRaven as the ex who doesn't make it. She is the body. What's great about this movie, I knew it was a noir set in high school. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize it was a noir set in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say that, ladies and gentlemen, what I mean is that other than a few characters, Laura, Emily, Brendan, who's played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, the Pin, Tugger, the Brain, Dode, all these characters have these names that you'd expect to hear in a 1950s, 1940s style noir.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that they speak to each other, the way that they engage with each other. Yes, they're using cell phones, they're using payphones, but they're talking to one another in such a way that it would fit in a different time period. And so it is anachronistic, but it absolutely works. Everyone is consistent with the way that they do things. So is it a little oddball that the Pin's mom is offering milk and orange juice to people while the Pin is sitting there, lording over his domain? Yeah, but then you think of a movie like all of a sudden, why my brain, Goodfellas, and
Scorsese's mom.
the mom is making food for everybody. It's not so out there. Okay, it is charming and hilarious and sad, and so beautifully not only directed but written, that you just get sucked in from
Mm-hmm.
that opening shot you were talking about, because you go, wait a minute, what's going on here? And there are questions that come up that even in the end, you're not sure you're getting a straight answer on. And it's fucking great.
Yep.
It is
Yep.
fucking great.
Now, my only criticism of that movie is, where is any parent doing all of this?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It's one of those
I had the same thought. I had the exact same thought at
80s
one
kids
point.
just off to just come back when the sun goes down.
You know what? I am of the age that that was more or less my parents. I got to a certain age where you were home when you were home. My dad worked, my mom worked. Maybe we had an after school thing, maybe we didn't. As soon as I got a job, it was a little like hands off. You're going to be home when you're going to be home.
Yeah.
So I'm not too surprised. And this took place in, I think, LA, and there
Yes,
seemed to be
LA.
a little bit of affluence with maybe it was just the way that they were dressed that it suggested it. But I could see this in like a Clueless type of scenario
Mm-hmm.
where rich kids be rich kids and parents be off doing stuff. So I thought about that as well. There was one scene, I can't remember it now. Maybe someone was getting a shower or something. I can't remember.
Maybe it's when you see Joseph Gordon-Levitt's face fucked up from a million punches all throughout this movie.
That's what you get for being in Tugger's presence.
That's what you
Like,
get for being in Tugger's
good
presence.
lord. But there's some great moments. And of course, Richard Roundtree as the assistant VP, that's
Mm-hmm.
basically a cop trying to like work
Work at
his
Stooley.
Stoolie. Oh my God, it's just so great. It's so great. So if you like Ryan Johnson, maybe you hate Ryan Johnson for some unexplicable reason, still watch the
Couldn't figure
goddamn
out
movie.
why.
It's
Couldn't
great.
figure out why. Yeah, it's great. You gave me Running Out of Time, a joint
Mhm.
from 1999, according to this, directed by
Johnny Doe.
Johnny Toe. Yeah, it stars the face that most people will be like, oh, it's that guy. It's Andy Lau,
Mhm.
who is also in Infernal Affairs, which became Scorsese's Departed. That's what it's adapted from. Some Wong Kar-wai movies as well in there. Andy Lau's had himself a good long career as a I know that face from this, that, and the third. And he's just a good looking dude, so that helps.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a police chief who is played by Lao Ching Wen, and he finds himself in this cat and mouse game with this dude who has 72 hours to live suffering from cancer. And you're not quite sure what this dude's in game is or what he's up to, but the cat and mouse in the way that you can tell that he's manipulating this very brilliant police inspector and to doing these things to further his own ends. And there's what is this, Chinese? So there's triads involved. There's mobsters and all that kind of good stuff. That's a number of spinning plates and seemingly unconnected plot lines that all kind of come together at the very end. It is one of the coolest movies of all time. The first 10 minutes, I was like, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen in my entire life. It is absolutely absurd. It has so much random hilarity that you wouldn't expect. Like, I feel like if you make this movie today, they're going to treat it as this dark, gritty crime gangster. And it's elevated by the small bursts of humor all throughout. When I was watching it, the main actor has so many great, like, facial expressions and random throwaway lines. I was like, this guy would have been a great lead of a sitcom because of how good he is at portraying both the serious and the comedic elements of it all. Like, he could have been China's moonlighting character, I think.
By himself?
He could have been the Bruce Willis at the very least. Okay. And just the story is dope. Andy Lau's performance is great. The direction is kinetic and all over the place, man. That it's a little bit complicated without being overly complicated. So you're like, wait, who's that guy again? What's that? It's just an easy, entertaining watch, man. It was a fun watch from beginning to end. And I would recommend this to everybody. I'm mad that it is low as it's ranked on Letterboxd because I had a blast, belly laughs all throughout the what little action you get. Like, it's not enough for me to call this an action movie, but what little action you get is very well done as well. Competently directed. I got to check out more from Johnny Toe, see what else has got this guy's sleep.
This is work brain. Before I saw Running Out of Time, the only other movie I had seen of his was Throwdown, and Throwdown is glorious. I've talked about it on the show before. I've also seen another film he did called Vengeance. I'd forgotten. I didn't realize that that was a Johnny Doe movie until after I'd seen Running Out of Time, interestingly enough.
Okay.
But Throwdown is a Criterion release. Running Out of Time is a Arrow Video release. And actually, with Running Out of Time, when you pick that up, it's a 2-disc set. So you get Running Out of Time 1 and 2. Here's a quick thing for those of you listening. If you are interested in checking it out, and Arrow does do Barnes & Noble 50% off sales. So I sure as shit recommend waiting for that to pick this up if you're interested. This first film, Running Out of Time, was actually written by there's 3 people credited as writers, 2 of which are former film critics that are huge comic book nerds, and they'd always wanted to write a script.
There
they did this, and Johnny ends up directing it. With Running Out of Time 2, I learned doing my research for my review of this Arrow video set is that Johnny has a tendency not really to use scripts, but to sort of have ideas of what the movie's about and what scenes to do, and just sort of let people do their thing. So it's very, very loose. You can tell that in Running Out of Time too. It's basically the same movie, just with slightly different characters. And with Running Out of Time, the lead is actually the thief, with the detective playing more of a supporting role. With Running Out of Time 2, the detective becomes the lead, and he's nowhere near as interesting. And because they go, oh, it's a sequel, we'll do more of the same stuff, but in a slightly different way. It's less engaging and less clever. It's something where you'll go, oh, this is entertaining, but it won't give you that, this is the best movie I've ever seen. This is the coolest shit that you were describing. So Running Out of Time, totally worth the recommendation. I've talked about it on the show before. Running Out of Time 2, totally fine. But if you decide to buy it, you get them both. You'll have a great time with one. You'll have a good time with another.
Boom, there you go. Done and done. It feels like there's a little bit of early Tarantino influence in some parts of this as well. It just has that vibe and that feel to it. I really dug this flick. And that's it as far as I know for episode 78 of
Every now and
Cinnamon.
then, I could recommend a good one.
Every now and
I mean,
then,
I
and
think they're all good. I
that's what I
wouldn't
said to
recommend them.
Leslie. I was like, Doug blessed me with a good one.
Oh,
There we go. We got our third one of the year. Uh,
oh. Those are rookie numbers. Got to pump those
you
numbers
got to
up.
pump
Pump
those
them up.
numbers up. That's it for episode 78 of Cinnamon Man. We'll be back with one final episode of the year wherein I will reveal my top 10 list of
So pointed when you say that.
2022. That will freely give this information out to any and all who will read and listen. I try to keep mine close to the vest until podcast time to unveil. It makes for good radio. But we'll be back to talk about our top 10 movies of the year. Likely movies we've already talked about, but still we get to gush over them one more time. So that's going to be fun times had by all.
I just want to point out, just because you could look at my top 10 list doesn't mean that you're going to look at it and go, oh, well, I know why he put that there. One of the most infuriating things, and there's a writer out there right now, he put together a list, and when he put it together on Twitter, he literally went, and I made this list for you. Yes, you, reading it right now. This is for you. Does this irritate you? Perfect. I made it for you. This way, anytime anybody goes, this is a horrible list, he goes, well, I made it for you. Lists are personal. Just because I made it, you don't know why.
Don't know
So I
why.
maintain my list throughout the year to make this time of year easier. But why did I put it in that order? Ooh, ooh.
We'll learn more about that next episode.
Yes, you
Our
will.
final episode of the year. Until then, you all take it easy and have a good one.
Watch more movies.